Greetings, everyone. It is Angelo Robles, and welcome if you're live this Monday evening. You've never seen a great family office. Neither have your peers. I know it's a bit of a provocative title, but we're going to run with it. I have some thoughts. Again, you've never seen a great family office, neither have your peers. I do not say that to insult you. I say it because it is structurally true. And almost nobody at your level has really confronted what it means. Think about your actual sample, your own family office, the family office of a few friends, descriptions traded at dinners in Palm Beach and Gstaad. That is everything you have observed, and it cannot contain a reference point for excellence, because generally, excellent, by the law of numbers, few family offices kind of don't really, let's go with the word circulate. They are private by design, and even more commonly by temperament. And this is going to apply to great entrepreneurs and great companies, so it's applicable for many a different purpose. So every principal is grading his or her operation on a curve, whereas he or she is only kind of really the student, and he or she wrote the exam, which is how at the very top of the wealth pyramid, mediocrity, oh yes, mediocrity can persist really for decades, wearing a costume of excellence. I've spent over 20 years inside the ecosystems of well over 100 incredible families and family offices and broadly entrepreneurs across multiple continents. I've seen the real reference points, and what separates them really from everyone else comes down to a single discipline and is the subject, of course, of my, by my standards, relatively short video tonight. So I do hope you're going to have a chance to enjoy it. You don't outsource your thinking. We'll start there. It sounds like a slogan. It's not. It's a claim about what a family office really is for. And I've come to believe most family offices, including sophisticated ones, have quietly drifted over time away from that answer. We'll really start where I think many things start, and how my practice management inside a family office over the decades changed from benchmarking and best practices, which I do believe has some value, to really, and we'll get to three core ones a little bit later, but starting, and again, entrepreneurs, someone who serves this community, this is valuable to you as well. So we'll start really with first principles. A single family office exists for, well, exactly one reason: to carry a family's capability across generations. Not the capital, the capability. Capital is the residue of capability. It is what the judgment, the discipline, the time produced, and it survives really only as long, in my perspective, as the judgment does. The historical record on this is not ambiguous. The families that have endured across centuries endured because they institutionalized how they thought, how they evaluated a counterparty. We're going to do some big things on counterparty risk. It's going to scare you in the future. When they refused an opportunity, maybe everyone else was chasing, what they did in the years when nothing seems to be happening. Sometimes this takes time to play out. The families that failed almost never failed from one bad investment. They failed, actually, really think about it, they failed from forgetting. Each generation inherited the assets and kind of started over for the most part. We have storytelling and more, but for the most part, it started over on the wisdom. The family office will not own and protect its own thinking, is not It's not a neutral custodian. It is an expensive instrument of, of forgetting. So how do you know where your family office actually really does stand? Guess that is the question. So that is one that's a little bit more complex in terms of where I stand in terms of really answering. I'm going to start. How about the discipline? The discipline that breaks this is old and simple, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. You interrogate yourself honestly, domain by domain. Think about it: governance, operations, technology, investments, talent. Maybe simply for purposes tonight, 1 to 10 against not your peers, but against what a genuine 10. And that is the key. What a genuine 10 would look like. Imagine you're only into best practices. How do you know that you're doing best practices against is something that you want to have the best practices from and gauge yourself to? In a sport, it's obvious, more so from its exposed, our eyes and statistics. I know Michael Jordan was great. His numbers in championships will, if nothing else, simply tell me that. So in a family office, it is more complex with quantitative and qualitative, but there needs to be some metrics and measurables, even though I could state the value is never solely per se the numbers, but it is what the numbers surface when set side by side. A 6 in operations, besides a 4 in your succession or succession readiness, has just located with precision where structural work produces its most disproportionate return. But the more dangerous pattern, and I see it constantly, is the 8 besides the 3, an 8 in investments, a 3 in governance. The family strength is not coexisting with its weakness. It's concealing it. Investment returns are the most effective anesthetic, so to speak, in private wealth. As long as the numbers are good, no one audits the architecture. And the architecture is precisely what fails when the environment changes. Think about that. Not in the average year, but in always the year that matters. Which brings me in terms of the families who pull ahead. I promised I would come to this a couple of minutes ago. Share 3 traits and note carefully kind of what is not on the list. Surprisingly, not intelligence. Intelligence is kind of table stakes at this level. Not pedigree and not even capital. The traits are these: a maniacal sense of urgency, first principles thinking that I mentioned earlier that I came back to. And I think here's a really big one. And we all have problems and face them. We'll have 99 problems. We'll solve them. There'll be 99 more around the corner. But that third one is an obsession, a focus on bottlenecks. That's a really important one for many family offices. The discipline to ask really at every moment, what is actually constraining the family? And is anyone working on that or merely being busy? Oh, I have a lot to say about that one, a future video. For most of history, the binding constraint on a family office was really cognitive capacity. Remember earlier how I mentioned intelligence, and I do want to come back to that. Here we are. Judgment was scarce. It lived in a small number of irreplaceable heads. It did not scale and often could not be duplicated. Every structure the traditional family office evolved, the committees, the advisors, the quarterly rhythm, is an artifact. Think about that. It's an artifact of that scarcity, which I've been thinking a lot about lately in some of the one-on-one work I do with family offices. That constraint, well, you're going to know why, that's broken in our lifetime, and really only, really the last year, but kind of over about 30 months. You're alive in the first generation of human history with, okay, give me a little bit of hyperbole here, multiple Einsteins on call, 168 hours a week. And I mean the operationally, maybe not rhetorically, analytical minds, truly of genuine depth, working in parallel around the clock with no scheduling, no billing, and like no politics. 5 years ago, no family office on earth had this. Name the biggest names, the Rockefellers, whatever. Not the largest sovereign grade single family office on the planet. The most consequential expansion, from my perspective, am I wrong, of cognitive capacity in the history of private wealth. And it arrived kind of essentially like without a press conference. And what has the industry really done with it? Overwhelmingly, I go around the world doing this, so trust me, I know, to draft emails. The most profound tool since the joint stock company deployed is effectively what? A typing assistant. But the deeper failure is not even underuse. It's a structural error in how it's being used. And I think there's two men, both billionaires, very successful, like them or not, they're saying some things that are very intriguing. Chamath Palihapitiya, God, I actually think I nailed it. I'm not the greatest for pronunciations. He stated the problem really in a single sentence. And this, yes, of course, this really comes back to AI, and which is where the vast majority, at the earliest levels, the vast majority of family offices are lucky if I call them a 1 to a 1.5 out of 10 with their capability in AI. We'll get a little bit, but not too much to that later. He stated it was brilliant. You cannot rent intelligence from the same place that rents it to your peers and competitors. What's wrong with you? And think beyond AI, you're using the same banks, the same advisors. You're getting a collective best practices of their often anchored thinking. But let's continue. Now follow the logic where it actually leads, because it really has nothing to do with data privacy. When every sophisticated family office routes its analysis through the same AI frontier models that, yes, I don't care what it says in their agreements, could absolutely, if not steal your stuff, it helps to shape their answers to others. And you get a collective mediocrity of often the same. But let me get a little off my high horse. So this is the convergence of what you're getting, not even really knowing how to talk to it and use it, let alone to actually do things. It tends to the same conclusions, the same thesis, the same insights, arriving in what? Thousands of inboxes every week. This is the old failure of the advisory industrial complex. God, you want to know why I'm such a favorite with those in the industry and that service it, don't you? The same banks, the same consultancies, every family's proprietary strategy kind of becomes indistinguishable from every other family's, but reproduced at machine speed. Alpha in any domain is really a divergence, and divergence cannot be rented from a shared brain. So Alex Karp is the other billionaire, helped and current CEO of building Palantir on precisely this question, supplying the answer, and his language is worth quoting exactly. Serious institutions, he says, want to know they own the means of production, and it's not being transferred to someone else. Own the means of production, not access, not an enterprise agreement that I hinted at earlier, not a vendor's assurance, however sincere. Ownership of the compute, the models, the data, and most importantly, the alpha they generate together. Karp, true, was describing for nation states and defense institutions. I am telling you, the same logic now applies without modification to any family whose accumulated judgment, maybe it's not, is worth defending. So the question in front of every serious family has changed. It is no longer how do we use ChatGPT. It is how do we build. They're starting to catch on around the world. Maybe I'm breaking through a little bit. How do we build a private, sovereign brain for this family and family office? Infrastructure, architecture, not simply as a tool, but more of a permanent cognitive architecture running inside the family's own walls, not bleeding to the cloud, on hardware, metal the family owns, monitoring what matters, anticipating what is coming. And this is the part that should hold your attention because you know it from investments. It applies to this and many other things as well. Compounding. A sovereign brain does something no employee, no advisor, no rented, which is what you're doing on the frontier models like ChatGPT and others, the frontier models. I like them. I use them. I use them for the deepest of reasoning and to actually execute. I use dynamic workflows in Anthropic to actually, in minutes, deploy dozens to hundreds of agents. But on certain things, not my most proprietary data. So think, it remembers effectively everything. Your AI, if properly structured, never retires and never resigns. The senior advisor's instinct for a counterparty, it's got it. The exact reasoning behind the deal you refused in 2009 and what the refusal cost to learn captured, reasoning alongside every future decision inherited by grandchildren who will never meet the people who earned it. This is what owning the thinking, what I also hinted with CARP as the means of production means, but maybe made more concrete. The family that builds it don't think about it as adopting technology. I mean, this is damn intelligence. It is ending deliberately the cycle of generational forgetting that has dissolved over a long enough time frame, like every great fortune that effectively has come before it. And you already know, you already see like who is building it, if you know the tell. And I kind of call it when I come into these rare family offices, it's like shocking competence. You walk into an office, an entrepreneur, anyone, and the clarity, the speed of the decisions, the precision of execution, it's kind of unsettling, not used to it, because the reference point you've been carrying suddenly looks obsolete. That is what this infrastructure produces from the outside. The principles not building at it are, they're about to look really slow. Not because they declined, but because the standard has moved. And this is sometimes the problem, although countering what I maybe said earlier, being in a silo. This is how we do things. I'm older. I don't learn new tricks. We got it covered. We compare to a couple of others. Well, you're unique, but what did I say earlier about the fallacy? Commonly a benchmarking and best practices and really first principles thinking and taking a more updated, trust me, I love Peter Drucker more than anyone. Built a lot of my practice management around him and his work. And there maybe has been no one like him ever with his capability and what he does. But imagine being able to marshal a level of those resources to get more institutional in how the family thinks and decides, and putting modern principles around more first principles thinking, coupled with AI and the power that this provides to anyone as an entrepreneur, a company, and for sure, a family office. So I kind of return where we began to kind of those 5 numbers. The greatest family offices are not defined by their assets. They really are defined by their capability. The capability, I would argue, of simply making better decisions. The capability to execute faster, which does matter in today's world. The capability, for sure, to attract incredible people, and incredible people are so valuable. I still put the big 3, People are still number one. Technology's making some inroads, number two, in systems, which great people in technology could create, as number three, in some of the metrics and things that I look at in any enterprise, but for sure, effectively, a family office. These are really, really important. And exceptional people, I mean, it didn't take many Spartans to win a battle. Maybe the number one thing that a family office could still do is hire excellently. It still is that valuable. So think about in continuing the capability to transfer judgment across generations, capability to adapt before the world, and trust me, oh, that's going to happen so soon, forces them to adapt. And they don't have the mindset, the compounding, and the capability. I'm going to have a pretty nasty closing comment in about 2 or 3 minutes, but I need to wake many of you up, as harsh as it may be. But when has that stopped me before? AI matters because it amplifies capability. Stay with that. I'm going to say it again. AI matters because if you know what you're doing, it amplifies capability. Governance matters because it preserves it. Culture matters because it compounds it. My work is actually not really about technology. And it's not consulting in the traditional definition of the word, but it is about building institutions within my framework of the family office world that become stronger, smarter, and of course, more resilient. I could go to Nassim Taleb and say anti-fragile with every passing year. So look at those 5 numbers in the metrics that I mentioned earlier, a simple framework again, because they are those 5 capabilities is scored. The gap between where you are and a genuine 10, that gap does not close with the tool, and it does not even close alone. It is almost never closed alone. It closes with real reference points, proven frameworks, and peers, highly successful peers operating at your altitude. The 3 things no principal, or rarely, could generate in isolation. And that is where my private intelligence and strategy community and my years over decades in the family office world in building SFO continuity to fill exactly that gap, all within 1 year of your membership. Imagine over 12 months inside a community of principals and family office executives who have you've outgrown conventional resources and conventional thinking. And you're being lulled with the comfort of it. And again, the sharing within a community that produces the mediocrity, the things that I mentioned earlier. Imagine really comparing notes with nothing to sell to each other, which makes it among the rarest rooms in the industry. The frameworks that I built and I provide, the full architecture, documented in my multiple books, and now with my updates, my 2 AI books, and I put 60 hours in the last 3 weeks, even with AI, into updating them. They're now collectively about 600 pages. I know that sounds onerous, does it? There's nothing like them in the family office world when it comes to AI and AI integration. I have a main forum over 4 days and 4 days, 4 days in Palm Beach every spring, 2 days in New York, that's upcoming in September, and throughout the year, roundtables across the world, including Europe, Mexico, other parts broadly of LATAM, LA, New York, Palm Beach, Denver this year, did Jackson Hole. And for some of you, it may not matter, but direct access to me year round. And that's what membership at angelorobles.com describes. Before we say goodbye, I promised I would also come back to a harsh quote or comment. We're getting to that. But I did want to note, it's the summer. Don't be like everyone else. What did I say in other videos? what Sergey Brin, one of the co-founders of Google, now worth like 360 billion, came back to Google because what's happening now in AI, he just can't keep away from it. I want you to enjoy your summer, but there's special things happening within under 30 days. Besides you getting access to me, my books immediately, imagine 23 days from now, August 12th and 13th. Those are the dates of my next AI Family Office Masterclass. The greatest instructors on earth, hand-holding. I don't care what stage you are. You'll actually be building an application. I don't care if you're 75 years old and never even used ChatGPT before. We teach you. August 12th and 13th in New York City. I call it kind of be sovereign or inevitably obsolete. 2 days where really the sovereign architecture, think beyond just the technology, is really built live with really you at the center. Imagine understanding truly your needs in hardware, the models, and building, not just talking, building it. Understanding what a second brain is, a markdown folder, creating agent swarms in Anthropic's dynamic workflows, understanding the power of ChatGPT 5.6, occasionally Fable 5, coupled within Hermes, and that understanding how to execute with some open weight models, maintaining your sovereignty. Hermes, if you know how to use it as technically a harness, incredible. Incredible. And the advancements that I've seen, often with the underlying frontiers, just in the last 3 weeks have been incredible. And Andre Karthapes, what some would call second brain, like these are the last 2 months have took the industry on AI finance and integration. It is completely different than it was even in January, February, or March. It's moving faster than I thought. And I tend to be very future forward looking. It's all happening very, very quickly. And honestly, what's the seat to August 12th and 13th? It's membership. Membership is the seat. There really is no other door. And the opportunity to go to angelorobles.com. You'll see my AI Family Office complete. It's my longest page on the site. Detail in terms of what you get there. And the membership page is descriptive as well. And far more than just AI. My decades in the industry, my work in creating my other books, A Top 1% Family Office, The Family Office Playbook, Billionaire Mastermind. They actually all could use more AI integration. They're a little bit more classic and traditional, but you all thought I was only AI. And family integration, rising gen, creating a family office in terms of the dynamic of the architecture and structure. It's all there for you and laid out over the course of 12 months. And multiple, I usually do 3 to 4 of these AI masterclasses every year. And this is my second one hosted this summer. And my New York Forum September effectively is around the corner. So think about it one last time, because really it carries tonight in my conversation the entire argument. A family office exists to carry a family's capability across the generations. And I'm telling you, there are practices, principles, first principles thinking, and the utilization, if you know what you're doing of AI, that, again, what did I say? The last 2 months have been incredible. This is for every generation really before yours that meant fighting the forgetting, and mostly, as the numbers have told us in the family office community, losing. Yours is the first that can actually end that. Do not outsource your thinking. Own it, protect it, and spend the next 12 months building the institution that carried it forward. And perhaps in under a month in New York, I'll have the opportunity to see you. Now, I did promise I would come back to a little bit of an onerous quote. I even wrote it down. Not that I need to really look at it. I've said this about 1 million times. Nothing in your career, nothing is going to have the immediate impact of being really, really good. You could do that in 30 days of understanding the power and how to use AI, because 99% of you don't. They understand the basics. They type in a basic prompt. It helps correct some writing and emails. You're kidding me. If you don't understand the nuances of all the frontiers, of the hardware to own, of open weights, of sovereignty, of not sharing your info to the cloud, of the security angle, of building dynamic workflows, of building applications that could probably replace most of your current SaaS, and you could do that relatively easily, of understanding Hermes and the things that I'm talking about, and the power of the intelligence. If you really haven't used it at the highest levels of what is out there now, like in 5.6 or Fable 5, and you don't know how to use it properly as a prompt, not how you might have done it 2 or 3 months ago or a year ago, all that has changed. Markdown files and second brain, all things you could learn. My books are going to have incredibly descriptive and very detailed, and I update them more than once a month, and it consumes a hell of a lot of my time, because it almost feels like at this point I have to do that like every day, which is probably why I'll have to make that online with updates. It's consuming. I'll give you that. There is nothing you could do in your career, not any course you could take at Harvard, not enhancing your capability in your given skill set, accounting, legal, investing. There's nothing that will come close to having the impact that learning, really learning and executing AI will have. It is not, there's not a close number two. And you will learn, and you're going to see this play out. And I know I'm not always a popular figure in the community for some of these things that I say. You will either learn AI or you will be toast. There is no doubt about that. And you knowing a model and paying $20 a month and occasionally typing a prompt is absolutely not you knowing AI. I'm 60 years old. I jumped into this hard about 2 years ago. I've done everything with it. I've built, I think, incredible apps, technically thousands of agents. I know the leading forward deployment engineers and AI teachers. I have families and family office executives around the world that come to my masterclass, and some of them come back and teach. They show you what they're doing and what they're building. You don't think they're going to be employable in a month, the end of this year, next year, and in 2 years? I can't look 10 years out. I don't know. I could extrapolate. We'll save those over cigars and a different conversation. I am telling you, I'm 100% correct about this. And I know some of you, especially a little bit older, that are intelligent, that have been successful, you're fighting it in ego, in resistance, and underlying really fear. And I understand. We're all human. And maybe you're at a point in your career where you have the money and resources. Fine. 99% of you, like, you're going to be foolish if you take that approach. If you really, really do not learn this, you will absolutely be toast. And I just don't want that to happen to you. And I want to make 100% sure it doesn't happen in any short to intermediate term to my members. And those are participants in what I do and what I built. Thank you for some of the kind comments and maybe some not so kind. Let's see. Okay, Charlene, good for you. I've spent the last 12 months building hundreds of systems. I'm a little obsessed and can't stop. Yeah, God, you sound like me. You sometimes have to be obsessed. Maybe we started like I did at age 58 from kind of ground zero. And for me to put in 300 to 500 hours and a lot of money into hardware and platforms I subscribe to, and you don't want to know what some of my API costs as I've learned the hard way, especially using Anthropic. Wow. But it's been great for me. I've made a lot of mistakes and I've learned, and I have a lot more to learn. And what's happening so much in all this now, it's like it's every day, every day. Uh, okay, some comments that I guess don't make much sense. Yeah, it's okay. I'm used to a lot of things that don't make too much sense. Some people say that I don't make a lot of sense. So yeah, it was a conversation about AI, maybe more indirectly, but really deeper about the things that I've noted about the fallacy of best practices and benchmarking, how first principles are incredibly important. You need to have a sense of urgency, especially with this, and you got to remove bottlenecks. And these are all frameworks from a variety of my books, my proprietary member only, the books, resources. So again, great. Follow me on social media, on LinkedIn and at Family Office. I'm happy to give away content. Consider me a friend. You can even text me, 203-570-2898. It's the only number I got. You all, I think, an email, and from my website, it's Angelo at angelorobles.com. And I am grinding it this summer, grinding it. Those books, there's a lot of work in those updates and preparing and restructuring the curriculum for August 12th and 13th and getting in line with my incredible family offices and other instructors and hands-on people there. The 10 participants, I want to change their life, their world. And they could start now because they get access to my books and me and other proprietary private videos and resources. So they're more prepared heading into August 12th and 13th. And I want them to come out of the unofficial end of the summer and Labor Day. They're just incredible. I want them to be top 1% in their industry and finance, the family office world, even the MFO world. I'm here to help. A couple of other comments. Yes, Charlene, that does make a lot of sense. Thank you for agreeing with me, but you don't have to. I want to also have people that would disagree with me. Thank you. Well, everyone, I kind of made a promise, I think, that I would keep this by my standards on the more shorter side. I think it's time for me to probably say a fond goodbye. I'm going to light up my fire pit outside, smoke a cigar, and I got some big things I'm working on in terms of videos and other book and proprietary content where I think I'm going to put in 3 hours and just let it rip tonight. I'm feeling the creative side. Everyone, I do hope you're enjoying a great summer, but I don't want you to take the eye off the ball of you need to be excellent. And the resources that are at all your fingertips now that not even the largest families and billionaires and family offices had a couple of years ago. It's here for you now. You could do it, because if I could do it, you could do it. So thank you all for being a part of this. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to next time. I got some proprietary member-only investment and State of the Union lives I'm doing only for them this week. I'll do variations of it that over later in the week I'll make more public, a little bit of a State of the Union of the family office world, given my tenure in the community. And I got some things to share without even talking about AI on the investing side, although AI is an anchor in Jensen Huang's 5-layered AI cake is going to make it into some of my investment discussions there. And we have an incredible guest coming up in August, among the most collectively popular guests I've ever had. If you go by views on my at Family Office, 53 years as a macro strategist, David Hunter. He's coming up in early August, and we are going to go hard for our usual about an hour and a half. So some great guests, some great, I hope, solos. Maybe those aren't so great, but I try. I know you all want to see me with a guest. That makes it more fun, doesn't it? Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed it. Call it a night and look forward to next time. Thank you and have a great evening.